woman without limits. Woman, 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 woman without limits. Na 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 na. Woman without limits. Woman.
Nora Odweso is a mother, she's a sister, she's an auntie, and a community leader, and currently works as the Senior Director of the Social Impact at the Coca-Cola Company. She is based in Atlanta, Georgia. She leads the company's women's economic empowerment effort around the world. And she leads a team from over 100 countries on this. What an amazing woman. Her 23 years in corporate career spans across both finance and humanities. She has served on various commercial and non-commercial boards in Kenya as non-executive director, strengthening her ability to lead business strategy and deliver initiatives that protect and enhance business reputation, strengthen stakeholders' relationships while supporting revenue growth. As a woman, she is very passionate about impacting lives, and what she desires most is to make a difference and an impact on everybody that she ever meets. Widowed at a very young age, she has a story of loss and grief that I believe is gonna change your life even as you watch Woman Without Limits. A few years ago, it's been now, what, 6 years?
6 years.
Something serious, terribly serious happened to you. And I want us to talk about that because it changed a lot of things in your life.
Of course.
You lost your mother and your husband in what, 2 weeks?
2 weeks.
In 2 weeks. Jesus. Maybe you can start there with what happened to your mom.
Yeah.
And
so my mom suffered and died of heart failure, and she had been well all along. My mother had turned 84 in 2015. But the thing that I'd also like to say about my mom is that from the time she was 80, she kept telling us, oh, I want to go home. I want to go home and be with my father. All my friends have passed away. And my mom was very prescriptive to the point that she even started to plan for her own funeral. She told us what color scheme mind you, she's 80. She told us what color scheme she wanted. She was almost drafting a guest list. These are the people who should come. And we kept looking at her quizzically and asking, Mom, stop talking like this.
right.
We still want you to be here until 90. And we were making all these declarations, and she was just rolling her eyes.
Like she's ready to go.
Like, you guys don't, she at once said to me, don't even pray for me. I've lived my life. I've lived my life. And she was a reverend, a canon in her church.
Oh, wow.
And she served God throughout her life. And she had been widowed for over 33 years. So 33 years, she lived as a widow. And so the year when she died, first of all, she died peacefully in her sleep. She just slipped out from the temporal life.
So she was widowed in her 50s.
She was widowed when she was 50. And she went on and lived 34 years. Yeah. And she made a decision, I'm not going to remarry. She had 10 of us.
Wow.
Yeah, she had
You
10
being
of us.
number what?
Me being number 7. Actually, she had 11. Me being number, is it now 7 or 8? Yeah, 8, number 8.
Wow.
And her 7th and last daughter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No wonder you guys were very tight
We were very
close.
tight, yes.
So that, how did that go? What happened now?
Yeah, so she had been well all along. She was of sound mind. She was in excellent shape. And that year, something just happened. 4 days before her death, she fell ill. We took her to hospital. She was breathless. And on the 3rd or 4th day of admission, she just slipped away in hospital.
Wow.
Yeah.
That must have hit you.
Yes, that was devastating. And at this time, when she was dying, I was in India with my husband, taking care of my husband.
Yes.
My husband had been diagnosed with what we call non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, which is a cancer of the lymph nodes. And he had ailed since February, since he was diagnosed February of that same year.
So you're saying that before he was diagnosed, he was also perfectly
He was fine. He was perfectly okay until they said to him, oh, you have cancer. Can you believe it? So they said, oh, now you have to start chemotherapy. And he went through one cycle of chemotherapy, which is like 6 sessions, and he was fine. The tumors shrank. We celebrated. And then 3 months after he was cleared, the tumor emerged again.
3 months.
Yes. After 3 months of short-lived celebration, the tumor emerges again. And we took him to India for further treatment. While I'm in India, on the 26th of October, 2015, my youngest brother calls me and says, oh, Nora, by the way, mom has gone. Gone where? What do you mean, how? Gone where?
Yeah.
Oh, she's left us. Left us for where? Did she go up country? Where did she go? And he said, she's passed away.
Your mind refused.
I said, no, that's not true. This is a very bad dream. She can't pass away because I'm here in India. I'm still looking after my husband, who is in ICU at the time.
So there's no way your mom can go.
So there's no way my mom... This is not how
What
life
kind of
works.
news are you-
What is
yeah.
this? This is not how life works.
Right.
And then 2 weeks after that, while I'm mourning my mom and not telling my husband, because he's still alive, in ICU, he can talk. 2 weeks after my mom passes away, I'm called to the ICU and the doctor in India breaks the terrible news that Mrs. Odweso, your husband has passed away. And I'm screaming and vomiting. And I'm telling the doctor, do you have the resuscitating? Try and resuscitate him.
Yeah.
This is not his time. Try and resuscitate.
He tried everything.
He tried everything. And I just felt my legs give way. Vomiting, not knowing who I was, where I was. Devastation.
You know, in this season right now, Nora, we are in a season of lots of loss and grief.
Exactly.
And it could be loss of a spouse, you who's watching us, or loss of a parent or a friend, a workmate, somebody you know. And we've really been going through that. And you know what? When we're talking about loss and grief, we're not just talking about human beings, even losing jobs. Some people go through the same process of pain and all that. So I want you to listen so that we can be able to see, how did you come out of it? How was it? How was the news? So Nora, here you are. You've just been told. You've gone down, you're vomiting, you're losing it. So that's like refusing to accept.
Yes. Because this thing shocks your system, you know? One of the things I have to say is that the harshest reality of human existence is that at one stage in your life, you will have to confront loss and grief. Your parents will die, you may lose a spouse, you may lose a child, you may lose a job, you may lose your financial security, you may not get the baby that you have trusted for years that you are going to get. Like you say, it comes in many shapes and forms.
It comes in many shapes and forms.
Yeah.
So
And so it shocks your system. First of all, it shocks you physically. Like I acquired illnesses after my body went into shock, and I acquired illnesses I'd never had before. So physically, mentally, because your heart is broken, but your brain is also broken. You can't think. Cognitively, if there's an English word, like
yes, cognitive.
emotionally, spiritually, mentally, spiritually, socially.
Yeah.
Spiritually for some of us, because it rocks your faith to the core. It shakes you to the core.
Tell us about that.
Because you're so shocked and you're in a place of anger and denial. And by the way, everybody talks about the 5 stages of grief.
Because there are 5 stages of grief.
Because they think there are 5. Some of us had like 8 stages. And sometimes...
Not just anger, grief, and
sorrow, everything.
Depression, disbelief, all those things.
All those things.
Yeah.
And denial. And those stages, some of them can play around at the same time.
Sometimes you can act like you've accepted.
Yes.
Like, you know, there's somebody who can be told, you know, somebody died. You say, oh, really?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
You think they've accepted?
No.
They're in serious denial.
Yes.
So their denial is, okay.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah.
Wow.
And at the same time, you have this profound depth of sorrow that is unexplainable.
Tell us about that.
So I would I went into a serious, my body went into shock, all kinds of illnesses, seeing and I never used to see doctors. The only time I used to go to hospital was when I was giving birth to my children. Now, all of a sudden, I'm going to see the doctors. I have all these issues with myself. And the doctors are telling me about the illnesses, and I'm doing all kinds of checkups. And one doctor said to me, you're traumatized. You must have gone through, because I didn't tell them.
Yeah.
They're the ones that said, what have you gone through of late? And I
Because that's
said,
trauma. Yeah.
yes, I lost my mom and I lost my husband. I was crying uncontrollably, loudly. Crying uncontrollably, loudly.
Yeah.
Couldn't sleep, couldn't eat, couldn't talk, couldn't even operate a phone. I just couldn't work. At some stage I said to my boss, you know what? I don't think I'm coming back to work. And I thank God because I had a boss that not only was he exceptional, he was also a man of faith.
Oh, so he understood what
Yes.
you were going through.
And he said to me, you know what, Nora? Go home. You can even take 3 months. Manage what you're going through and come back to work. You cannot make a serious decision
Based on a
based
situation.
on a situation. So at the point of grief, one must be very careful what kind of decisions they make.
That's not the time.
That's not the time.
Yeah.
Be gentle on yourself.
Just wait, you grieve fast.
Wait, yes.
Instead of making serious
Instead
decisions.
of making serious decisions.
And yet this will pass.
Yes, and yet this will pass. Because grief shocks you. So if we are talking to somebody who's grieving right now, it's normal. Because grief demands your attention.
Yeah.
And grief is the high price you pay for love. And the saddest thing is that the more you loved the person, the more you grieve.
The more the pain.
The more the deeper the pain. Now, in my case, I would say this was catastrophic grief, you know, because I lost 2 of my best friends.
Your mom.
My mom
and then your
and
husband.
my husband. Now, I was bargaining with God and I was telling God,
Bargaining.
you should at least have considered
Yeah.
my plight and you should have taken only one of the 2. Because my mom, if you chose to take my mom alone, my husband, his mom had passed away years ago, so he would understand my pain point because he would comfort me as a motherless man. So he would understand. My dear wife has lost her mom. I've also lost my mom.
So I need to really comfort
So I need to
her at this
comfort
time.
her. So I told God, we were having this conversation with God. So I said to God, but you chose to take my mom. You should maybe have taken my husband alone. Because if you left my mom was a widow. She would have comforted me as a fellow widow. She understood my pain point. She connected with my pain point. But what do, God? You cut off all my limbs and I remain with the torso. You cut my legs, you cut my hands. What is it that you want? What do you want from me? I was angry. I was so angry. By the time I was going back to work, even after 3 months, I would walk into my boss's office and tell him, I'm so angry. And he said that it's normal. And I said, but I'm angry with God. I'm angry with God. I'm a woman of faith. I'm not angry with fate. I'm angry with God. And he said, you know, Nora, the fact that you're still having an emotion and talking about God means you still have a relationship with him. I was so angry. And people would come to me and people would tell me things which I didn't even want to hear.
Like what?
Scripture. Scripture was
so
the
that
last...
time you don't want to hear scripture?
I don't want to be told about scripture. Somebody was reading for me the book of Job. Somebody else came to me and said, oh, Sister Nora, you need to search yourself. Why are these things happening to you?
You're joking.
Somebody said, oh, he's in a better place. I don't want him to be in a better place. I want him to be here. Oh, your mom is dancing with the angels. Dancing my foot. I want them to be here. Dancing with me.
Right.
Not with the angels. And so when you go through grief, you're actually not yourself.
You're not okay.
You're not okay.
And so that's not the time for people to start talking to you.
No.
What's the best thing somebody can do, Nora?
So when somebody is grieving for the first few months, the best thing is you show up, but you shut up. Show up. The conversation you should have with the grieving person could be a touch. On the arm, on the hand, whatever, a hug. The most you should say to a grieving person is, I'm so sorry for your loss. Quisha.
Don't start. The
Don't
Bible
do
says,
that.
and then what? At the job, Nora, there must be something you did wrong.
Yes.
Somebody told you that.
Yes. Search
Nora,
yourself.
people are bold.
Yes. My sister, you should search yourself because this is catastrophic. You've lost your mom.
There is something you did to God.
Yes.
Can you see confusion? That now adds even the pain.
It adds even the pain. And I used to cry uncontrollably.
So you were angry.
My sister-in-law used to help me to cry, bless her heart, because she lost a brother.
So she would come and cry with you.
She stayed with me for 3 years. We would cry. We were not talking. We were just crying.
Oh.
It was hard. It was hard.
And you were still angry with God.
Yes, I was.
So what you would tell God, you would ask him questions.
So my
and bargain with him.
Yes. So my prayers took on a new dimension. I was not kneeling down to pray or reading my Bible. My Bible was closed, shut, because it just didn't make sense to me. My prayers were more conversations of anger against God. How could you allow this to happen to me? And the more I sought explanations, the more silence. So if you're grieving, don't even try to seek explanations. Because even if you ever heard a loud voice coming from heaven telling you, this is the reason why I have taken your husband, it's not going to comfort you.
Enough.
It's not enough.
Yeah.
So why are you bothering with explanations?
Yeah.
You have to come to a place of surrender.
And just trust God.
And just trust. Now, when I'm saying trust God, it didn't come immediately. It came after, I think, a year or two. When I slowly crawled back, and after coming to a place of surrender and acceptance, grief is intense. For those who have experienced the loss of a loved one,
it's not a joke.
Gosh,
it's not
illness.
You know, trauma. What trauma does? Trauma is locked up energies within the body that you've not dealt with.
Yes.
So the minute you don't deal with it, it now takes on another form.
Exactly.
And it can now get on to sickness.
Yes.
So you start feeling pain here, my leg, my what, and it's trauma that you never dealt with.
That you never dealt with. So one of the things that helped, a lot of things helps me. First of all, I really thank God that the family, my family, obviously this affected the whole family, and we were so close. We are still very close as a family, and they came together. Remember, I was telling you before the 3 things in life: family, friends, and food.
Right.
In the case of my grief, I would say family, friends, and faith, and I'll speak a little bit about each one of them. My family obviously felt the same level of grief. We all lost a mom. I lost a husband. They lost a brother. Uncles and aunties lost a nephew who was so dear to them. This was the first nephew in their family. So Frank meant a lot. He was the oxygen to many people. And we all grieved together, and we were
children.
And the children lost a father, which is now another whole new different story.
A whole story altogether, because they are boys.
Because they are boys. They lost their father. So family, obviously, it was a different dimension. We all grieved together. The support was unbelievable. The friends, I have to just give a shout out, because at that point in time, when one is grieving, you're numb. You don't feel yourself. You're paralyzed in your brain. You can't think.
What?
You're moving autopilot like this. You know that, yes, we have to do this program. Yes, we have to buy a coffin. Yes, we have to make sure that the funeral happens. So you're operating like a zombie.
You're not there.
You're not there. Now, the friends that God has given me, and the friends that I had deliberately built relationships with over the years were stunning.
Wow.
After the funeral is when I looked back and I said, oh, how did we do this? They were with me 24/7. They took over, they stood, and there are far too many of them for me to even start mentioning
one by one.
Friends. And so the counsel I would give us is that build strong relationships before grief happens.
Around you.
Yeah. Build a strong...
Don't be alone.
Don't be alone.
Don't be isolated.
Don't isolate yourself. Because when it happens, those true friends will come for you and help you, as they did with me.
Right.
Even though I decided God should be in my back burner for the next, I don't know...
Forever. Till you meet him in heaven.
Till I meet him in heaven. Because grief has no timeline. It has no template to follow. There's no GPS. Oh, this is how to grieve. There's nothing
turn
like that.
Right.
Yeah, turn right. There's nothing like that.
Yeah.
faith. And the reason I want to talk about faith is because I'm a woman of faith and I have been in the congregation of people of faith. I have to say that I saw faith in action. I saw men and women of God, including yourself and Bishop Allen, standing to support me,
Amen.
praying with me, supporting in morally, spiritually, financially, everythingly. That was, to me, I think, the biggest level of support.
Wow.
Praying for
So
me.
faith.
Faith, praying for me, because these are people of faith.
Yeah.
These are my brothers and sisters in the faith,
Yeah.
and hence faith.
Absolutely.
You know, even when I was going through my grief where I wouldn't sleep, I wouldn't eat, there were days when I would just wake up and stare into the blank space, into the ceiling, or just stare blankly at a wall. I could still sense that there were men and women of God who were upholding me in prayer. Prayer can be sensed.
Wow.
Even in your grief, prayer can be sensed.
Because it's a spiritual thing.
Because it's a spiritual thing.
Yeah,
and
right.
I could sense the prayers of the men and women of God.
Right.
They attended the funeral service. They even attended fundraisings.
Yeah.
Some who were able to make it for the funeral came.
Yeah.
The ones who could not were still supporting, praying and interceding.
Right.
I have to say that really helped a big
It
deal.
helped you to stand.
It helped me to stand. And then the other thing was, my boss said, you know what, Nora, one of the things that will help you is if you come back to work and keep yourself busy. Keep your mind busy.
Right.
You have stared into space for long enough. Get back to work.
Because you can lose your mind.
You can lose your mind.
Completely.
Completely.
Yeah. By
Get
the way,
back.
loss and grief, that's the other thing that people need to know.
Yeah.
That it's very easy to go and trip all the way to the other side.
Yes.
And you lose completely, you become insane.
Yes.
So it's so important,
It's so
what you're
important.
saying.
Yes.
You know, to like go through it.
Yes.
And nobody should, by the way, I don't even believe in this thing of somebody doesn't cry or, you know, you're acting tough. It catches up with you later.
Yes. Yes.
So it's very important to grieve.
And you know how Kenyans say, you have to be strong for your children. You don't have to be strong.
You don't have to be strong for anybody. You have no point to prove. And even the children need to break. They need to cry.
Yes.
Because grieving is a part of the process of healing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Let me tell you, my mom was a woman acquainted with grief. She lost her husband.
Yeah.
She lost her parents. She lost 5 of my siblings died. We have been to 5 funerals. 5 of my siblings. When one of my brothers passed away, my mom, you know, society, you have 10 children, you need to be strong for them. Culturally, you need to be strong. My mom, okay, you can't cry. Because if you cry, what will the children do? And so she didn't cry. A month after my brother passed away, she lost her mind. She kept asking me, where is Tom? I said, but we buried Tom a month ago. She says, no, I've not seen Tom since morning. Where did he go to? Yet we had buried him a month ago. She lost her mind. We had to slowly restore her back to normalcy, to a point where now her mind accepted.
That is
and then
good.
she went through a process of deep grief.
Yeah.
Because she didn't give grief time.
Right.
You have to give
grief time.
Yes.
Give it time.
Yes.
Let it take time. Just go through it because otherwise it catches up with you.
catches up with
Somebody told me they literally almost lost their mind completely.
Yes.
Because the mom passed on and they were just ignoring,
Yes.
you know, until reality hit.
Yes.
And she was losing her mind completely.
Yes.
So it's so the process you're talking about is very good.
Yes.
And we are saying that it doesn't matter what you've lost,
Yes.
whether it's a person or a thing. Maybe it could be your job. The grieving processes are normally the same. Okay? Of a person, of course, it's a high magnitude.
Yes.
But I want you to know there are people who grieve even for losing a job.
Yes.
In the same way they refuse to accept.
Yes.
They go through anger.
Yes.
They go through denial.
Yes.
They go all those kind
all
of
those
things.
things, yes.
And it is so important to go through stage after stage after stage
Yes.
until you now can come into resolving and accepting, yes,
Yeah.
it has happened.
Yeah.
And now I need to now get back in order.
Yes.
Na 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 na. Without